Happy 420 Day. This is the Focus Group.
They're all business, except when they're not. It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. Be sure to catch us here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. East on our YouTube stream or Facebook feed. You'll find us listed at Focus Group Radio, and that's also where our social media is. And head over to focusgroupradio.com to find all of our media, which is housed there, and you can download for free any of our podcasts, which include our Tuesday podcast, TFG Unbuttoned, or any of our shows. And John, I looked at the date. You know, we're now going into our 15th year. We started in 2008.
Yes.
March.
And to remind listeners, that was on XM radio before the merger. And we've told the story before, but we had a consultant that was hired to work with us to get us up to speed.
Do you remember where we went after we recorded the first show?
We went to the Mandarin Hotel across the street, and I think we went to they have a bar on I think it was like the 13th or 20th floor or something, right?
And it was my birthday, so you bought me a
birthday,
gimlet or something. We had a birthday drink, and then I got the train home. But you and I had to read scripts then. We should, you and I in the past used to run the original show, but it's cringeworthy.
Katie, our old producer, used to always request the audio from me, and I'd be like, "Oh, it's that time of year," and she would run, and it would be, "Hello."
Hello, I am Tim Bennett. You are not to say anything else other than your name.
If it wasn't on the script, Tim wasn't allowed to speak it. Neither was I. We got Mother Superior basically came with the ruler and slapped your hands.
Well, right, and I had to write. I would write the scripts because you were still running your agency, so I would write these scripts, and she had to approve them by some ridiculous lead time. It might have been Monday. And then you and I would do them Wednesday, but that she would go through with a red line them and decide what was appropriate or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it did prepare us for at least prepping for a show, which was helpful. But as you used to say, a little less stick and a little more carrot.
More carrot goes a long way with me. How do you think it's going? And I'm like, well, I think if it was a little less stick and a little more carrot, we'd all be happier.
Well, you don't like to be told what to do. You never did.
I don't know. It's true.
If somebody tells you to do something, you will purposefully, no matter what, you're not going to do it. That's the way you are. You've always been that way ever since you were, I'm sure, and your mother said that even as a child.
Mm-hmm.
You would listen, but if you dig your heels in, that's it. That's a Libra man. Isn't that what that is?
Libra man is odd.
It's hard to please.
Speaking of Grey Gardens, I need to watch that movie again. We normally do a once a year viewing of that film, right?
Yeah, Memorial Day would be a good time, I think. Friends of ours that I had given it to, they now have made a tradition. They watch it New Year's Day to kick the year off.
Year's Day?
They gather people around, and it kicks off the year.
Really?
Well, how things can't be as bad, right, as Grey Gardens. So your year... You just think about the year ahead and just imagine if you're little Edie or big Edie.
I'm very organized, kiddo. I know where everything's at.
I just can't find it. I know where everything is. I just can't find it.
Come
on in, we're not ready. That's my other one. Come on in, we're not ready.
Whenever Bob and I watch the movie, Bob always says to me, remember the first time Tim ever saw it? Because it was up at our house, and you were on the edge of the couch the entire time. You were sucked in, and you became an instant fan of that movie.
Well, because if you and I lived there, we would have been friends with Big and Little Edie. You and I would have stopped by. You particularly would have been wanting to know what's going on in that house, and you'd have dragged me along. And then we would have, befriended them and probably realized that they were quite entertaining in their eccentricity, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And not stupid people, but
not at all. No.
Yeah, but unfortunately lived in a not a conventional life.
I think squalor might be the word people would use for that, and just so you know, to set the record straight, the film we're talking about is Grey Gardens by the Mizell brothers, which then became a musical, which
Yes.
then became an HBO movie, which then, so yeah, you have to, and then there's the second Grey Gardens film, right?
Right.
The Beals of
Right, with the popularity, he used other footage and then did the Beals of Grey
Grey
Gardens.
Gardens
And then just recently, that summer.
that summer, yeah.
And
But
it's
it
all in
all
the Criterion collection that you can get at deep discount if you head over to focusgroupradio.com.
Who's a partner of ours here?
John, I was up in Connecticut for the Easter holiday and saw a family.
Past
which
is
was-
present.
Right, where the past is still present. I had a nice visit. I had a really weird dream, which I think could be now. I think this could be a TV show and or a movie. The premise here of what happened to me. So, I was dreaming that I was in a backyard with some friends, and I don't remember exactly what friends. And I was at a house that I didn't recognize, but it was a new house that I had either just purchased or my parents had purchased, and we were in the backyard doing yard work. And my mom had said, it's time, we should have dinner now. We should go in and prepare dinner. I said, I'll go make dinner. I have some chicken cutlets or whatever. So I walk into the house to find probably 60 to 100 people in the house waiting for a party to start. And all sitting around on furniture. It was an enormous house, not a house that I've lived in. A big house, and I looked on the sofas, and there were people that I hadn't talked to in probably 30, 40 years. There were other people that were just acquaintances, but I guess assume they were friends. There were people that I had falling out with. And they were all like, "What, are you going to offer us a drink? When's the party start?" And what I had found out had happened is, do you want to guess what the premise was what happened here? Which I think this could be a
No.
great movie.
Yeah, what is it?
Somebody had hacked into my Facebook page and set up a huge party at the house and invited all of these people. And
I would not have thought of that. I would not have thought that you were going to say
the people
that.
who showed up, right? The people who showed up were either people, Facebook friends you don't know a lot of times, quote unquote friends, and just these other people that there were a couple. I'm not going to mention names, but there were neighbors. There were people that I hadn't talked to since I moved away out of Philadelphia. I mean, that long ago. We're talking 20 years. I'm thinking, what are you doing here? We're here for the party, having a big party, and then I ended up waking up, so I don't know what, but I thought, what a great plot that could be of having all these people just interact, because you would essentially go through the personalities of who you would have on Facebook as friends and find out people, oh, we're Facebook friends. Well, I don't know you. But so.
I don't know.
And then I went and I told my mother. I went back. I said, Mom, there's apparently a party going to happen. She goes, well, can you stretch the food? I said, I got 3 cutlets. I mean, I'm not, not going to stretch the food. What do we do? Do we order pizza? I mean, what? Do you have
And
a
that's
party?
in the dream. This conversation about food is in the dream, right? Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought an interesting premise for a movie.
Now, when I did therapy years ago, if I brought a dream into therapy,
Did you get beat
and
up?
anybody listening might relate to this, there was a discussion about it. And sometimes a dream's just a dream. But if you were sitting in front of somebody and they said to you, what do you think this means? What do you take out of it?
I don't know. I tried to think of it. I don't know what it means, because it was weird. It was a house I didn't recognize, and there were also people that were dead in the dream that have died.
Yeah.
So it was the weirdest thing. Now, I don't know what made me dream it. I wasn't drinking. I didn't take any drugs. It was just this very vivid dream, and but I thought it was a good premise. Now maybe somebody's done a movie like that already, but if not, you and I have copyright to it or whatever, trademark.
You got to start working on a title.
You've been hacked. I don't know what the title would be. Do you?
It's something close to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that was a. Do you remember any recent dreams lately?
No, I don't. I
you do
sometimes wake
dream.
up in a mood, and I wish I could remember what put me in the mood, because I'm sure it was a dream. But now I haven't remembered.
A good mood or a
any
bad
recent.
mood? You wake up in a bad mood or a good mood?
Sometimes, Mondays in particular is usually a what I call tenuous mood. Like, is it going to be a good Monday or bad? Because I'm not a fan of Mondays. Other times I wake up.
Has that always been?
Yeah, Yeah, actually, it has been.
Even in
So
school, you didn't like Mondays?
I don't remember that be the case being in school, but I think of the last couple of years, it's always been, it's the start of the week. So I try to make Mondays packed as possible so that by the end of the day, I'm like, wow, I got through Monday.
Huh. Or do you think you can make it, we're going to talk about this in Shop Talk a little later about allowing your mind to wander. Do you think maybe Mondays should be less structured then? Or you think
I don't
more?
know, because that's
No.
when the panic sets in, and maybe I pay bills that day. Hey, maybe I shouldn't pay bills on Monday.
I was going to say, you set yourself up for aggravation. You're paying your bills.
Exactly.
I just got a propane bill for $897.
That's that fireplace of yours, right?
We might as well, as I told you, throw 20. Well, you were here and saw it. Throwing 20s up the chimney for pretty. Doesn't even heat.
Do you know that? Well, how long does that last? That bill, was that the winter propane bill?
No, it was a month.
Oh, no, that would never fly. But Bob would shut that off immediately and call it a day. Yeah, I've never had. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, well, it is amazing. Well, it was cold too, and but I had a gas thing when I lived in Pennsylvania, and there was a gas lantern out front of the driveway, and then there was a gas lantern on the house. But I had an electric stove, and I couldn't figure out why I was getting a $240 gas bill every month. And then I shut that thing right off. It was pretty, but I don't need pretty in the driveway at $230.
I remember that. Yeah.
When I sold the house, I had all this stuff. I had just ripped it out. I had it all in the basement. I'm like, oh, here's a box of beautiful, beautiful gas lantern if you want to hook it up. Gas line's still there. But,
be prepared.
yeah. Anyway. So, as listeners of our show, you probably know, we do our banter up front here, and then we'll have a Caught My Eye segment, 2 stories that John and I have found that interested us. Then we will have a business birthday, a little message from our sponsor, Deep Discount, and then a shop talk. And this one that we have this week is about allowing your mind to wander. So, without further ado, Mr. Nash, what caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
All right. I had a rogues gallery of headlines to choose from this year, or this week, my apologies. Before I get to the one I did do, let me show you the options I had. Maryland man with 124 snakes in his house died of snake bite, autopsy finds. All right, so that's the kicker. The next one raises the bar. 4 men arrested for raping Bengal monitor lizard in western India. One of the accused's phone was discovered to contain a video of them gang raping a Bengal monitor lizard at a tiger reserve in India. Now, I looked up the lizard. It's a lizard. The thought that
is it
you would
huge?
rape
Is it one
a
of
lizard.
those big monitor lizards?
Yeah, like from a
Surprised it
James
didn't
Bond.
eat them.
Well, 4
Well,
men
there's
arrested.
a whole bunch of things.
And the one I settled on is this one, which I think a man tore his lung from masturbating, doctors say. So a young
I
man.
love the tissue box. Did you apply this? Did you apply this image?
I'm glad you mentioned the tissue box. So that's the picture that accompanies the article. So whoever thought about the article really nailed that little tissue box. A young man's session of masturbation inadvertently led to him spending almost a week in the hospital. In a recent case report from Switzerland, doctors detail how a 20-year-old ended up with air leaking into his chest after some seemingly innocent self-love. Fortunately, the injury wasn't severe, and he recuperated just fine. So what happened was he checks himself into the hospital, and he comes in. He has trouble breathing. His face is swollen, and doctors could hear a distinct cracking noise as he breathed in and out. Like sometimes if you have congestion or something, it makes that crackly noise. A chest scan soon revealed that he had something called, now wait for this one, I've had to practice this, pneumomediastinum, a condition where air circulating through the respiratory system somehow ends up escaping into the space in the chest between the 2 lungs. And if you know your anatomy, there's a space between the 2 lung sacs. The man's air sacs were also damaged, and he required high doses of oxygen. Doctors made the decision to put him in the intensive care unit for observation, and he was given antibiotics and acetaminophen for his pain. This condition resolves itself on its own. when they sat him down and they're like, okay, it's an injury that would put pressure on the cavity of the chest is what normally causes the air to leak out of a lung. But they sat him down. They're like, well, what have you been doing? And they asked him all these questions, and they looked through his medical literature, and they could find nothing wrong. He has slight risk of asthma. And then finally he's like, yeah, well, all I did was masturbate the other day. They don't have anything that associates this with autoerotic anything. So they were kind of, oh, this is an unusual one. So he's one for the record case, but it resolved. He was released from the hospital after 4 days, and his symptoms were completely gone afterward.
I never heard of a torn lung.
Well, yeah, and I've never heard that air would leak out and get into the middle, and somehow it just. So yeah, between the guy that dies of a snake bite and he owns 124 snakes, a gang rape of a lizard in India, and somehow some guy's lung gets damaged from masturbating in Switzerland, there was a potpourri to choose from this week.
Well, you could have taken any of them. I don't know how so the snake bite guy, did somebody find him dead?
Yes. Yeah. The autopsy revealed death by snake bite.
Wow. I never understood people that have all those. Well, they're
exotic
hoarders,
animals.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're also animal hoarders. Huh. All right. Well, be careful when you're self-pleasuring.
Always have a box of tissues handy, too.
Box of tissues and maybe an oxygen mask. I don't know.
Yeah.
So mine was a bit more pedestrian. And I've always been fascinated with language and how language develops. And of course, English, we're fortunate that we speak English, I guess, because it's kind of the language of the world, I would guess, isn't it? Mm-hmm. The English language?
Certainly a business, right?
A business. And it doesn't necessarily make sense, as we know. There's certain, a mishmash of our language, which I was doing some research here, and this article said English is composed of Old Norse, Old French, and Latin.
Yeah.
And we have a bunch of sounds that bear no resemblance to the written letters. And then someone asked, why does rough, cough, and though not rhyme? That's always a question people have, because particularly in Spanish, if something sounds a way, it always sounds the same way, but not certainly in English. So this led to the writer of this article, Claire Nowak, to ask, why is there an R in Mrs.? So do you have any guess as to why there's an R in Mrs.? So MRS. So the abbreviation Mrs. MRS.
I wish I could say it's somehow to do with Latin or French, but I'm probably wrong.
Well, so I didn't know, and I guess I didn't think of it, and that's why the article caught my eye. So it says, why is there an R in Mrs.? So and we don't pronounce it. So they said, in previous centuries, the word mistress was the polite way to address all women. So by the 18th century, mistress had been abbreviated to MRS. So since English speakers have a tendency to shorten spoken words, we soon dropped the TR, and the word came to be pronounced Mrs. It said similarly, we were called master, which was then abbreviated to an MR for Mr. But they said, interestingly, the original meaning of mistress, or the title Mrs., was used to address women regardless of their marital status. So everybody was considered a mistress if you were a woman, regardless of status. So they said Mrs. didn't become a thing exclusively for married women until the late 18th century. That was when the title Miss also came to mean unmarried women, instead of using the term young girls, what they did at the time. And the word mistress became a very different thing entirely. Of course, we know what a mistress is. So that's why there's an R, MRS, because originally it was mistress, and it was shortened, and the TR dropped to Mrs. MRS. So that's how it happened. They said the English language is constantly changing and evolving, and who knows what we will call one another or what titles we'll give to one another in the future.
That's where did you pick this one up from? What was the source there? You random reading, I know.
Yeah, I was wandering around. I can't tell you. I knew the writer here is Claire Nowak. It says she's a contributor. You'll laugh. She's a contributor to the Reader's Digest.
Well, look, I grew up with that. Did you?
Reader's Digest? Yeah, I think my grandmother had it. Yeah.
Yeah, we had it as an actual subscription to our house. We got National Geographic, Reader's Digest, Time, Newsweek, and the Waterbury Republican.
Which was the Waterbury Republican? That wasn't necessarily a conservative newspaper, was it?
No, it was just a paper. I don't remember. Well, of course, we were kids. I don't remember it having a political bent at all. But yeah.
Well, so there you go. So too good caught my eyes this week. So hey, as many of you know, friends of ours here, Deep Discount have been with us here for quite a while. You get to Deep Discount by going to focusgroupradio.com and clicking on the Deep Discount logo and start shopping away for all kinds of great media. Right now, they've got an under $10 in budget sale going on. And so there's lots of great, probably hundreds of things to pick from that are under $10, which is remarkable. It's less than a drink at a bar, right, John?
True. Or a sandwich these days, right?
Or anything. So, in order to add to your media collection. So what did you find at Deep Discount this week?
Okay, I picked a movie solely based on one of the actors, although I like both actors, and this is a film that stars Anthony Hopkins. I'd heard of it, but I've never seen it, and it's called Solace. And I was actually surprised when I read the description because I thought it was something else. Anthony Hopkins stars in this unusual thriller as John Clancy, a retired doctor with psychic abilities who lives a solitary life in the wake of his daughter's death and the dissolution of his marriage. He's recruited by the FBI to help catch serial killer Charles Ambrose, who's played by Colin Farrell, who I like as well. Clancy begins to realize that not only is the murderer also clairvoyant, his powers are far more advanced than his own. And that's the kind of the lead up there. And I was just like, wow, that's not what I thought about this movie, but I will watch anything with Anthony Hopkins in it, usually, of late. So I thought this is a perfect opportunity to get this, right?
What did you think? Did you have an idea of what you thought?
I thought it was strictly a crime. I knew it was a crime drama. I didn't know that there was this element of clairvoyance or psychic stuff in it. So that added a new layer to me.
Wow. Mine was... I've never seen it before. It comes from Alpha Video is the distributor studio. And the title is The Nude World. And it's Authentic Trip Famous Nudists. And it's in black and white. And it originally came out in 1933. So it's a documentary. And it's on DVD. And it's $6.56. It's an early documentary that explores the nudist colonies around the world. And so they've used some stock footage and voiceover narration. They said the film examines the phenomenon of nudism throughout the world, beginning in ancient Greece, all the way up through, at that time, modern times in 1933. I just can't imagine. It was re-released in 2010, and I was intrigued by it because I could not imagine what it could possibly be. And I love a documentary, so
Yes, you do. When you sent this in, I bust out laughing, and I thought you always find the hidden gem. If you're going to have a 10 and under sale, I mean, here I went for Anthony Hopkins. It's kind of like cat and catnip because I love the actor. But you went a little deeper, and you found something that you wouldn't normally. You're not seeing this on a streaming channel, right?
No, and I
haven't seen the Nude World.
Right, 1933, right? So how, that's almost 100 years ago now. So you can't imagine what they must have been talking about, or I didn't know. Well, I have to see it. We'll have to watch it.
No, you did a great job with this one.
So what's the new release this week?
Well, the new release this week is a movie starring Peter Dinklage, who I really like a great deal. And it's Cyrano. And I saw him do the press tour for this, and I was really intrigued by it, but I didn't get to the theater. It was in the theaters first. It did get good reviews. In 17th century France, erudite swordsman Cyrano de Bergerac, Peter Dinklage, was as able to take an opponent apart with wit as with his rapier, his sword. So too self-conscious to express his love to the beautiful Roxanne, who's played by Haley Bennett, he made the handsome, if vacant, soldier Christian, Kelvin Harrison Jr., the vessel of his sentiments toward her. We all know the story of Cyrano de Bergerac, and I think that Peter Dinklage does a great job bringing it to life. And I am definitely picking it up. It's on DVD, and it's only $17.99 at deep discount. So, as Tim mentioned at the start of our little deep discount journey here, it's the 10 and under sale, which means you can find things like I found or things like Tim found. And as an example, I went with Solace, which stars Anthony Hopkins, Tim found a gem of a documentary. It's from 1930. Did you say 35 or 36?
1933.
1933. I was wrong on both counts. It's called This Nude World. It's the history of nudist colonies, an authentic trip to famous nudist colonies. And the release this week is Cyrano. And again, you can get the deep discount by visiting our site, focusgroupradio.com, and clicking on the deep discount logo and start your shopping adventure. We are going to take a super quick break, and when we come back, we have a business birthday and a shop talk. So we'll see you on the other side.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Now back to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Available pretty much everywhere.
Everybody, welcome back to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. We are the Focus Group. If you get a chance, please subscribe, like, rate us, wherever you find us. We're all over the place. I think you can even ask Alexa to find us. And
free.
Free.
Yeah.
Unless you pay for a service where we are as well, which we're on the DNR network as well, right? I believe we're over there.
Question for you. When was the last time you took a pandemic or the event? I don't even know if we're allowed to say it anymore because of YouTube. A rapid test.
Oof. Oh gosh. It's so long ago I don't remember. I took one. It was last year, probably last summer.
Do you have some at the house?
Yeah, I have. We have 6 kits here at the house.
Yeah, we have a bunch. We got some from the government, and one of the requests for this third night Seder we went to, super fun night on Sunday, was to take a test before we went to the event. And if you're sick, stay home. I got to admit, they make it pretty easy, but the apprehension of waiting for that little strip of paper, the 15 minutes or whatever, to show you the one line or the two, still kills me. I mean, we were both fine, but I'm like, oh, boy.
It's like pregnancy test at home. Well, you didn't feel any symptoms, did you? But they wanted you to confirm. They didn't check you at the door or anything, did they?
No. And the assumption was made that most of the people there were vaccinated, but
right.
I have a friend who had got COVID recently. Didn't even know he had it. He had a runny nose for a day, thought it was allergies, went about his business until he had to have a test before a procedure. And they're like, oh, by the way, you're positive.
Wow. Are you going to get the booster?
I'm going to check with the doc, see what he says. Maybe you do it in the fall. I mean, it seems like with milder weather coming, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Are you doing the second one too?
I talked to a couple of people down here that it's pretty easy to get because not a lot of people are running to get them. And I talked to a couple of people who did get them. And I certainly believe in the vaccination. I just haven't done it yet. And I know Philadelphia just instituted the mask mandate again indoors. And I don't know if New York is thinking of
No, not yet. No.
But, they're saying that people are, I guess, mask fatigue. People seem to be tired of it.
Oh, obviously with mass transit, with airplanes and trains, you still have to do it, and I'm happy to do it. I still wear one in the supermarket or a store.
Do you? When you go, you still do one? Yeah.
But it seems kind of weird that I would do that, but not wear one at the gym or a restaurant. So,
Hey, listen, you and I had talked about this many times. I loved not getting a cold.
Oh.
Or getting.
I would wear it just for that.
Right. How often? I always got a winter cold.
Yep.
And the last two years, having to wear a mask in the winter, it didn't happen. So to me, that was a silver lining of wearing the mask for me. Although I had trouble. I wear glasses now all the time. You don't.
And they fog up.
Fog up all the time inside or so. But we're alive. So that's
there you go.
Important. So hey, let's share our business birthday today.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
He's 81 years old today, if he's alive and listening. Well, he is alive. I don't know if he's
He
listening.
might not be listening.
Glenn, probably not when you hear a little bit about him. But Glen Taylor, born April 20th, 1941. So, as we said earlier, Happy 420 Day. I never knew what Happy 420 Day was until recently. And then you and I did that project with that Polo a Pot company.
Cannabis company out west, yeah. Happy 420 indeed.
420. So yeah, but has that always been a thing? Kind of on the QT, it's just more.
You
more
bring up
popular
a
now?
great question. I don't remember that years ago. I don't know when that popped up, but suddenly 420 was the day to celebrate cannabis, right?
Now, do you know anything about Glen Taylor before
Not at
you
all,
saw his
no.
name? So we should, I guess. He's on the Forbes list, worth $2 billion, American billionaire from Minnesota. He's a self-made man. They said he was best known for being the majority owner of the Minnesota Timberwolves NBA basketball team, as well as the Minnesota Lynx, which is a women's WNBA team. He also owns the Star Tribune newspaper, and he was a member of the Minnesota Senate as a Republican, though he said he was moderate. He was ranked on the Forbes 400 list. His company ranks as one of America's largest private-held companies, with a net worth of, as I said, $2.5 billion. He grew up in Minnesota and went to school for math and physics at Minnesota State in Mankato, and in '78 received an executive MBA from the Harvard Business School. But during his time after college, he worked for a company called Carlson Wedding Services, which was later known as Carlson Craft. And it was a Mankato print shop specializing in formal invitations. So they could be wedding invitations or a birthday invitation, invitations you'd buy at Hallmark or any of these big box stores, I guess, that sell invitations and cards, thank yous, notes, those sort of things. So the company was owned by a guy named Bill Carlson who wanted to retire. So Glen Taylor, offered him $2 million over the course of 10 years to buy this company. And he was able to pay it off early, and he became this large, privately held multinational printing and electronics company called the Taylor Corporation, which currently has 15,000 employees based in Mankato, Minnesota. He continues to serve as chairman. It's considered the third largest graphic communications company in the country, right behind R.R. Donnelley and Quad Graphics, which have larger revenues. In 2015, they had acquired Standard Register for $307 million, which Standard Register served the financial, insurance, healthcare, industrial, and retail markets by manufacturing commercial print, corporate stationery, business cards, business forms, direct mail, labels, retail signage, and promotional products. And then right after he completed that sale, they went after and bought Staples Print Solutions. So, of course, we know Staples. And they acquired 10 commercial print facilities, which they added to the company's footprint. They now currently comprise 80 subsidiaries. They employ, as I said, more than 15,000 workers across Canada, Mexico, France, the United Kingdom, China, the Philippines, India, and in 21 states here in Les États-Unis. They're a wholly owned subsidiary now of the Taylor Corporation, headquartered in Dayton. He was also Minnesota State Senator, which he said he considered himself a moderate. And as I said, owned the newspaper. When he bought the newspaper, the Star Tribune, in 2014 in Minnesota, he said that at a Minneapolis, St. Paul, he said he bought it for $100 million. And it was a famously liberal paper, but he thought it would be less liberal once he bought it, though he said that they just essentially shifted a little more to the center and reporting the news.
Okay.
So happy birthday, Glenn. If you're listening, we'd like a deal on some printing supplies, I guess. So, it's these sort of people. This guy could be wandering around and pop in somewhere. No one would know who he is, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
And,
exactly.
right?
And it's
I mean,
an
that's-
industry that I was not suspecting you were going to go down that path with the printing and all that.
Yeah, I wonder sometimes about people. It's like I used to meet auto parts people, or when I was with a steel company, and these very somewhat smart entrepreneur, non-assuming folks that could buy anybody out tenfold over, and no one was the wiser. Versus a celebrity, which is wandering around and everybody's all goo-goo over. But So it's one of our business birthdays. Glen Taylor, April 20th. Happy birthday.
Not bad.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. Do you still, when you had your agency, did you contract locally for printing stuff, or how did you guys usually handle
Oh,
this?
that's a sad, for me, that's a sad part of this transition to completely digital, because downtown in the, the Canal Street area, which would be kind of like Soho, Tribeca, all the big printing companies, all the buildings were designed to have massive paper shipments, like the 12-foot ceilings for Heidelberg presses.
Oh,
And
the
one of
Heidelberg press.
Remember the
that
Heidelberg?
that was the granddaddy of them all, right?
Yeah, and so my favorite thing was when the printing reps would come visit with paper samples and new varnishes, and and it was a wonderful kind of ecosystem. And when you mentioned, I think you said Quad Graphics was one of the companies you mentioned.
Yeah.
I used to design a lot of magazines, and because of Quad's physical locations around the country, they were in the Midwest and they were in upstate New York, and that gave them ultimate distribution power for the printed matter. I would go on press checks and see look at the magazines they were getting created. Totally miss that. I mean, it's wonderful when you design something and it prints and you see 30,000 copies of something you made coming off in identical fashion. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, it really is, and it really does come to life. I mean, yeah, I still get excited now. You would in the account we just did, we had bought some print and some magazines out west, and it was
nice
fun
to see the ad, right?
Fun to see it in the magazine, because we don't get to do much of that anymore. So very good. Our shop talk today is an article that I found. This came from the Philadelphia Inquirer. And I know you're a big advocate of this sort of thing, and I had a couple of questions. Is why I chose it, because I had a couple of questions. I
thought you might have, because when I read it, I was like,
Yeah. So it's the headline is, "Here's why you should let your mind wander, and here's how to set it free." So they said, if you're overwhelmed, you're not alone. Even before the event, 60% of adults in the United States reported sometimes feeling too busy to enjoy life, according to a report from the Pew Research Center. And 52% said they were usually trying to do at least two things at once. And experts say that the antidote to is free and accessible to anyone willing to try it. The antidote for this wandering, which is simply setting aside time to let your mind wander and do nothing. And part of this, they say, this practice was portrayed recently in a book, this Doing Nothing by Oleg Mecking. And it was called Nixon Embracing the Dutch Art of Doing Nothing. So what was your
I love the
thought
article, and I remember when this book came out, the Embracing the Dutch Art of Doing Nothing, and I remember reading a bit about it. And so the Inquirer did a good job with this article, because they actually rooted a lot of the thinking in the following. From a biological and psychological standpoint, we're almost never doing nothing. We're always doing something. We're standing, we're sitting, we're walking, we're talking to someone, we're preparing food. And even when we're just sitting and we think we're doing nothing, we're probably thinking about something that has to get done, or something, a task on our minds. But they refer to this as a more directed thing, other than just being, relaxed, or like when you're on vacation, that's sort of a certain mindset. But mind wandering is a little different. And they also talk about, they had a couple of cases of how this is actually accomplished, either through physical activity like a walk, or like a bike ride. Like I do a lot of this on my bike rides, but I do what they called later in the article this kind of parallel thinking, where you're trying to solve a problem. You kind of put it aside to do the activity you want to do, like riding your bike. And over the course of a 30-mile ride, usually I'll synthesize in the back of my head somewhere, and boom, an idea pops in. I've often, you always laugh when we joke about it. My best ideas come to me when I'm not sitting in front of a desk trying to have an idea. And I guess that's the core of this, right?
Yeah, what I found interesting too, which I thought of you immediately, because they said so in your case, if you were riding your bike, but you were doing it with a goal in mind, saying, I need to go 50 miles in X amount of time.
Training,
and get this training, then that doesn't count, because you're focused on that. But if you just went out and did a 50-mile ride, and you certainly you're aware of what you're doing, but you let your mind wander, and there wasn't a goal of saying, I need to be a minute better than I did last time, or 30 seconds, whatever, then it's okay. But when you make a goal toward it, that it's very different. I had a similar thing when I used to be way in the upper Midwest, so northern Wisconsin, Minnesota, toward North Dakota, and back in the early 90s, we didn't have DVD players in the car. A lot of the radios didn't work because there was no signals.
Right.
And once in a while you can get NPR. There were no car phones. And you might have had a cassette or something, but you'd get tired of dragging cassettes with you. And I used to not complain, but I would say to my boss, God, you just, hours and hours. I'm 6 hours from dealership to dealership. He goes, oh, that's windshield therapy.
Yes.
And so what he said is that sometimes it's just good to be quiet and think. And you're driving, and they called it windshield time or windshield therapy. And I thought about that because recently when I did drive down, I had the radio on, but there were times I thought, oh, I should call somebody. I actually thought of calling you, and I'm not going to bother John right now, but I thought, oh, I can call somebody, but I didn't make any calls, and I just kind of sat and did the drive and sorted things out. But my question to you was, is this repackaging meditation? Because they said you should do it every day, right? They said you should find time to do this every day and carve out time. And people that meditate say the same thing. And when you meditate, don't you let your mind wander too? Or
I have never been good at meditation, and I've tried. I have really tried.
I have too.
But I was told once by a yoga instructor that I don't need to worry about it because I have other ways of getting into a meditative state. And she said it's like driving a car. It's like riding your bike. It's like running. If you're not, like, it's exactly what the article said. If you're not training for a goal and you're just, I'm going to go out and run and do a 2-hour run. That windshield, what was it? Windshield therapy?
Windshield therapy, yeah.
That's my favorite. And I surprise myself sometimes. And I often do it after, for instance, I'll visit my mom and we'll take her to dinner. I'll take care of her for a while. And I'll drive back to the city or up to the house. And, the hour and a half, you could snap your fingers and it goes by because I'm processing everything that occurred.
Right.
And music would be distracting for that. So to answer your question, I do think it's a form of meditation. I just don't like calling it that because when I watch people meditate or I've tried to do it myself, I fail to achieve this state that they can they literally, and I have, you probably have friends who meditate, I do, and they talk about the discipline of sitting and doing it and saying the mantra. I just,
And they all say it's life-changing, and I'm with you. I've tried as well, and I've tried two different ways. I've tried to do it myself, but then I've also tried to do the self or the guided. You can go on YouTube or some places and do the guided meditation. But when you do yoga, is that a form as well? Or do you think about are you thinking about your day, or are you just wandering?
So that's another fascinating one because you are moving and you are putting your body in different shapes, and it's very much a breathing exercise. And the yoga instructors always remind the class to be present. The mind wanders, one of my instructors always says, the mind wanders, the mind chatters. That's what it does. Bring it back to the moment and be in the moment. And they often tell you to focus on your breathing to make you stay in the moment in your head. And actually, that's what meditation does too, right? So yeah, it is. So, yoga does have yeah.
That's interesting. I've always wanted to do yoga, and I don't know why I've been afraid to.
Oh, it's if you could find, I was introduced to it through my assistant Robin. So was Greg. We used to be near a gym at our old office.
Oh, did Greg go too? I didn't know that.
Yep.
I wouldn't expect he would have the patience.
Well, she found us a beginner yoga class, and that was essential because each class taught you a different thing. Here's the triangle pose. Here's warrior 1. Here's warrior 2. And the instructor was really great. And then you slowly move up to a normal vinyasa where you could follow the instructor because they assume you know the poses and you know all this stuff. I've been doing that since Moon City was formed almost. So it's probably 20 years now I've been doing yoga.
Wow.
And it keeps you limber, and it's good for your a lot of things, for balance in particular. But there is a meditative quality to it. In fact, at the very end of every yoga practice, they do something called shavasana, which is, they call it the death pose. You basically lay on your back, your hands are up, your feet are, you just lay however you like, and you just lay there and you breathe. And usually it's 2 or 3 minutes. sometimes it feels like an eternity, sometimes it goes by with a snap of a finger. But again, it's a meditative state that gets you back to your day.
Well, I thought it was an interesting article, and I thought it made me want to try meditation again. So we'll see.
They did have advice about encouraging mind wandering. Don't multitask was one of them, right? Yeah. Put your phone down was another obvious one. And my favorite, I don't know if you did this as well, engage your hands. The author of this piece says that doing something that keeps your hands busy but not stressed out can help you get in the right frame of mind. A repetitive task such as crocheting, weeding, et cetera, can do the job. I thought that was a cool piece of advice as well.
Yeah, because a lot of people I know will do that, and probably Bob did that when he would go out to his garden, right? At upstate, he would just go out and weed or whatever, and probably
I think that's very much how he accomplishes his thinking sometimes, as he gets into these mechanical things, like I'm going to go plant the tomatoes, or I'm going to do something like that. So, excellent piece. I'm glad you brought it up, and I read it, and I was like, oh, this is it's designed for yours truly.
Yeah, well, it's important, and I think actually I've always been a proponent. I used to get in trouble at Subaru sometimes because I would take the staff out, or I'd tell people to get away from their desk, go for a walk, go get a coffee somewhere in town.
De-stress, right?
Or just get out of the environment, because as a marketing person or a creative person, you never know where you'll get inspiration, and I think that's okay. You don't need to be tied to a desk, which I think has really affected a lot of places, and probably why you and I would struggle maybe getting back into a corporate structured environment where somebody expects you to be tied to a desk for 8 hours.
And producing creative work or solutions to problems that don't necessarily pop up on your computer screen. Yeah, look. Yeah, I'm with you there. Yeah. All right, friends, we want to thank you for taking the time to join us today here on the Focus Group. FocusGroupRadio.com is the URL for our website. You'll find all our media there, information about Tim and I, and also you'll learn about our podcast, TFG Unbuttoned, which drops on Tuesdays. Be sure to check out Deep Discount, our partner here on the Focus Group. You get to Deep Discount by, again, going to FocusGroupRadio.com, clicking on their logo, and start shopping away. They have a 10 and under sale this week. I picked a movie called Solace, starring Anthony Hopkins. Tim picked a documentary called The Nude World. Did I get that right?
The Nude World, yeah.
The Nude World and it's from the 30s. It's black and white. It's under $10.
Documentary about nudism.
Bingo. You don't even say anymore. And the new release this week is Cyrano, starring Peter Dinklage, which got great reviews, and I think you should pick up the movie. So again, thanks for joining us. Remember to don't text and drive, arrive alive, and we'll see you in the new week.
It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.